my 7th grade students. Whoa, technical difficulties. Okay, I think we're good now. Okay, all right, Spiral Review 2 for my 7th grade students. So let's jump on in here. When we do math every day, we take things in the world with numbers and sentences and words, and we try to make sense of them. And part of being able to do that is you have to be able to write equations or organize your information enough that you can make sense of it, solve for missing pieces of information. So looking at words and translating them to equations is a really important skill. And everybody wants to just do it word for word, like we're some, quick Google Translate, and it's very black and white. It's not always that easy. It's not too hard, but sometimes you got to watch out for something. And specifically, what I tell my students is to watch out for that sneaky less than, okay? Because whenever we translate words to equations, most of the time, as we read, we can translate those words to numbers, letters, equal signs, things like that. But not always in the order that you would want to put it in if you just were reading it out loud. So for instance, if I said 5 more than a number y is -2. Well, 5, we know that. We know more than is probably adding. A number y is y, and then is going to be like your equal sign, and then you put -2. So really we just translated that one as we read it. So if I put that equation down, it would be 5 more than a number y is -2. Okay, 5 more than a number y is -2. And then we just have to solve. We have to get y all alone. We want it to be positive and alone. So we want to take that 5 away that was adding to it, doing opposites, right? Build your balance first, keep things nice and balanced. Canceling out, adding 5 and subtracting 5, cancel each other out. We have a nice positive y. And then we have -2, take away 5. We're taking 5 away more from -2. So we're going even lower. Think about a number line, right? If you've got -2 on a number line, think about the movement you'll make to get 5 spaces even further to the left. So that's -7. You could also do keep, change, and do -2 plus -5, and that would give you -7, okay? -2 plus -5, okay. So, because subtracting positive is the same as adding negative. So y equals -7. So I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna put in -7 for y. That's our value of y, okay? So I gave you some space to write the equation and show your work, and then come back and make sure you define what your variable is, okay? So the one I told you to watch out for, I'm gonna skip down here, is less than, okay, -13 is 4 less than a number n, okay? The thing about less than is you're taking something away from something else when you're saying less than. If I said I had a bunch of cookies and you had 10 less than me, well, you would take, to know how much you had, you would take my amount and subtract 10, right? You're not going to take your amount. You're not going to say 10 minus 100. You're going to say 100 cookies minus 10, or whatever amount I had, okay? So watch the less than. -13 is, so there's your equal sign, 4 less than n, not 4 minus n minus 4. Take 4 away from that. That's why we really have to be careful. Okay, so I'm giving you that hint verbally. I'm not going to write it out for you. I want you to write that out, and I want you to solve it, just like this one. The sum, that's the answer to an addition problem, of 8 in a number h is 12. Write that basic equation and solve that for me. Okay, speaking of one-step equations or basic equations, keep practicing these, practicing and showing me what you can do on these basic equations. This one is super basic, so we just build our balance. Okay, believe you can do it. Build your balance and look at your variable. What's happening to that variable that you need to undo? There's nothing to clean up on the left and the right anymore. We just got to start undoing what's happening to that b. So it's subtracting 6. So the opposite of that, to get rid of that 6, is to add 6 to both sides. My lights went off again. All right, so we've got negative and positive 6 that we combine to cancel out, and we're left with just plain old positive b. B likes that. B likes to be alone. All your variables like to be alone when you're trying to solve for them. And -14 plus 6 is going to be a -8. I like to tell students it's like tug of war. -14 is pulling on the left, and positive 6 is pulling on the right. Who wins? 14 wins by 8, right? And they're more powerful, so they're the negative number. So it's -8 as your winner. Okay, then you have decimals. Oh, you guys love to hate decimals and fractions, don't you? But just look at what's happening to our x. Build your balance. What's happening to x? We're adding 4.3. Let's do the opposite. Subtract 4.3. Subtract 4.3, okay? And adding and subtracting the same thing cancel each other out. X is alone, and it's on the right. It doesn't care if it's on the left or the right. It just wants to be alone and positive, okay? Then negative 6.4 minus 4.3 means we're already negative, and we're getting even more negative, right? We're gonna be closer to like 10 something in the negatives, okay? You could keep change. If you wanted to think of that instead of just minus 4.3, you could think of it as keep, change, and then plus a negative. So we're combining two negatives, negative 6.4 and negative 4.3. That's negative 10.7. And that's your value for x. You could plug it back in and double check your work. Okay. On the two that you need to do independently, look at what's happening to your y. Do it on both sides. Don't forget to build your balance. Show your steps. Build good habits when you're solving these basic equations so that when we get to the harder ones, you guys are ready. You're solid to go on those. Okay. Same thing on this one. Don't let the fact that there's a negative sign out in front scare you. Don't let that scare you. Okay. It's a negative, so you want a positive 10.2, just saying. And then, like I said, you guys don't like you don't like your decimals, you don't like your fractions. Fractions are so scary. No, they're not really that scary. You just have to take your time, pay attention to detail. Speaking of scary, I'm gonna be scary right now. I gotta stand up, get my lights back on. Okay. I always wonder what people think of me, like if they look in the window and then there's this crazy lady running around the room. But at least the lights came on. Okay, so we're looking at the R right here and we're adding 1/8 to it. How do we get R alone? R is like, please leave me alone, I want to be by myself. Okay, well, adding 1/8 and subtracting 1/8 are the opposites. Build your balance. I'm gonna leave a little room because I know I've got some fraction work down here. Okay, so negative 1/8 or subtracting 1/8. Do it on both sides. Okay, cancel that out. R is like, yes, I'm alone. That's what I want, positive and alone. Except I'm not done. I got to do the fraction work, okay? Don't be freaked out by the fraction work. 3 3/4 minus 1/8. Well, they need to have the same denominator. Anytime we add, subtract, or compare, got to have the same denominator, at least if it's not a real obvious answer. Sometimes you guys can do those things in your head, okay? 3/4 is the same thing. Oh, look, my hand's already green. I always get marker on my hand. 3/4 is the same thing as how many eighths, okay? Well, 4 times 2 is 8, so 3 times 2 is 6. All that is, guys, is like if you had 3/4 of a pizza and you wanted to take those fourths and make them eighths, means you have to like chop each piece into 2 smaller pieces. When you're chopping the 3 pieces into 2 smaller pieces each, okay? It's about chopping your pieces into smaller sizes, believe it or not. The numbers get bigger, but the pieces get smaller, okay? So 3/4 is the same thing as 6/8. So I'm gonna write on top of this, 6/8. So if I have 3 whole pizzas and 6/8 of another pizza, and I just take away one tiny little piece, one tiny little eighth, I still have 3 whole pizzas. And then I have 5 out of 8 pieces. I had 6/8, then I took away just 1/8. I have 5/8 now, okay? Don't let that stress you out. Get the same denominator by multiplying this by the same number, so times 2 in this case, okay? 2/2 is 1, so really we're just changing the name, not the value of the pizza or however much we have, okay? Same idea on this one. Look at what's happening to your D, do the opposite, okay? Take that away. Just be careful when you have a negative and you're subtracting it. You're really combining negatives. I can't help it. I have to help you with this one just at the start. So for subtracting 1 and 5/6, subtract 1 whole and 5/6. Okay, we're going to get rid of it. D is happy and alone. Yay for D. Okay, we have a negative minus a negative. If you ever get stumped and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, just think of a very simple example where you have a negative minus a negative. This one's bigger down here, okay? So if I have a small negative and I'm taking away more negative, really, it doesn't matter what they are. I'll just say, if I took a basic example like -5 minus 10, okay? You could keep, change. You're combining the two. You're actually adding their absolute value, adding 5 and 10, and it's just a more negative amount. So what you're really going to be doing is adding those and then putting a negative sign on there, okay? Be careful. This one's not too bad, but we don't have a nice common denominator, like 6 goes into 12 pretty easily right here. 2 doesn't go into 7. So find a number that they both go into, have a common denominator, and work from there. And that's it. See you later. Ask me questions if you have them in class.